WBAI New York 99.5 FM. Coming up next, Waking Up with Juliana Forlano and King Downing.
Welcome to Waking Up on 99.5 FM. I'm Juliana Forlano.
King Downing, good morning.
Good morning, everyone. It's a beautiful day. We're going to have Josh Holland from The Nation and Alternet and all other places you can find Josh Holland on the show in the second half to talk about, well, everything. Impeachment, the Biden scandal. Is Elizabeth Warren taking money from corporate interests? What does that mean exactly? Josh is so knowledgeable. It's going to be great to have him on the program. Up in the first half, we're going to be taking your calls. We're going to be talking about impeachment and the news. It's 69 degrees going up to 82, mostly sunny today here in New York and the New York City area with a little bit of rain potentially looking at us, but not until Saturday. Stay tuned. Good morning. Good morning, New York. Hello. It's so great to be here with you. Good morning, King.
Good morning. How are you today?
Good morning. We're here. So what's going on in the world? Oh, they're going to impeach our president. That's kind of exciting. You know, that's happening now. The House is conducting a formal impeachment inquiry into Trump's actions as a president, spurred, of course, by a still classified whistleblower complaint and by Trump's own admission that he asked the Ukrainian president to investigate supposed corruption by one of his potential 2020 rivals, Joe Biden. Here's a roundup of some of today's events. Well, this week's events, but yesterday, this morning, saw the somewhat inexplicable White House release of the so-called transcript of a conversation between Trump and the Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, who we're all learning to pronounce a lot of Ukrainian names during this scandal, unless anything, that's one thing that's going to come of it. The document was allegedly cobbled together from voice recognition software and notes from participants, and it is far from clear that it represents the full contents of the call, but the White House, the White House's pre-vetted version was nonetheless shocking, shall we say. Trump repeatedly pressured Zelensky to investigate Joe Biden and his son Hunter, instructing him to work with Trump's personal attorney, the fixer, Rudy Giuliani, and Attorney General William Barr. I believe Dante is going to have to expand his circles of hell in order to make room for all of these people. I don't think 9 is going to be enough. In a key phrase immediately after Zelensky and Trump discussed U.S. military aid to the nation currently at war with Russia, Trump told Zelensky, "I would like you to do us a favor, though," after which he asked the Ukrainian president to investigate CrowdStrike and the server, they say, this is a quote, "the server, they say Ukraine has it." He appears to have been referring to a far right conspiracy theory, claiming that a missing Democratic National Committee server is actually somewhere in the Ukraine. After leading a Department of Justice effort to block Congress from receiving a whistleblower report alleged to detail Trump's actions, Barr, by the way, is now himself directly implicated in the scandal. He's, that he's, of course, attempting to hide. In his testimony to the Senate last May, Attorney General Bill Barr evaded a direct question as to whether Trump ever asked or suggested he open an investigation. From the White House call readout, however, we know that Trump personally considered Barr to be a top contact for the corrupt, quote-unquote, corruption probe into the Bidens. House Democratic committee chairs have issued a joint statement after reviewing the White House document. The record of the call released by the White House confirms our worst fears, as they say. The president abused his office by directly and repeatedly asking a foreign country to investigate his political rival, and open investigations have meant to help the president politically. So that's where we are, in case you haven't been able to follow everything that's going on this week. It's, possible that, today, I believe it's possible. Well, definitely there's going to be more information going on. And I think this is all very exciting. What, King, are you following this like the horse race, or are you following in a more general sense?
Well, I've been following it in a couple of ways. One is the legal developments and how impeachment moves forward, because right now, now that I understand exactly how it works, it's an indictment, and we talked about that yesterday. Now I'm wondering about the time frame. How quickly does this happen? How long does it take? Does it run right up and explode as the primaries are going on or the elections, or does it happen after that? And will it have the ability to force Trump out a la Nixon
Yeah.
before he
Has to come up for re-election.
has to
Exactly.
come up for re-election?
Now, there's a lot of talk. I mean, it's just wild. There's a lot of talk about how will this hurt the president in his re-election bid? Will he be out by then? Will it be too stressful on the country? Will he step down? I doubt it. He's a narcissist. Narcissists just don't give up.
And
They're
as-
very tenacious as a
and
group.
as we've learned with police brutality cases, this could blow back in a completely different direction. It could turn out that it galvanizes his base, and it brings a whole lot of people out of the woodwork who some may be dangerous and some may have mental issues.
So many of them are dangerous. I mean, they're Trump supporters. Sorry, I don't mean to be rude, but you are in bed with, neo-Nazis, even if you support Trump because of your tax cuts. So something to look at, something that you're going to account for when you meet St. Peter at the gates, shall we say, or I don't know, whatever your religious beliefs are. So if this transcript of Donald Trump's phone call to the Ukrainian president, often sounded like the middle of an ongoing conversation, it's because basically it was. Trump drops into talking about Biden without doing any introduction of the topic or providing any background for what he wanted Zelensky to investigate. And that's because the Ukrainian government was already very aware of what Trump wanted. Conversations with Giuliani bookended the call from Trump, which is so, if Giuliani calls you before somebody else calls you and then Giuliani calls you after, something's not right. Something's not right. Anyway, everything's been completely wild ever since this. But one of the stories that is funny and kind of on the radar now is that Susan Collins says she really can't comment on impeachment, but comments that she's concerned about impeachment. Susan Collins was the standout. She's the senator from Maine who everyone hoped would vote against our recent SCOTUS and alleged sexual predator in chief, or not in chief, but in SCOTUS, in robe. And she's the one that we can always count on to not do the right thing. I don't know why Democrats think that she might occasionally do the right thing, maybe because she supports women's right to choose, but she's basically hemming and hawing yet again. There are a couple of Republicans out there who have been, Mitt Romney, I got to tell you. Mitt Romney has been out there. And this is what he's saying about what Trump is doing.
Are you kidding?
That's exactly what he's saying. I've had that sound effect for 12 years since he was running for president.
Are you kidding?
He's the one who's out there saying that, this isn't necessarily a good thing and that we shouldn't just automatically go into lockstep with party politics on this. It's an exciting time. I'm happy to hear what y'all have to say out there. If you want to call in, 212-209-2877. You're listening to Waking Up with Juliana and King, 212-209-2877. It's kind of early morning to just get out of bed and talk about impeachment, but that's what we do.
Yeah, and anybody who likes to get up and turns the radio on are going to hear this on all kinds of
Forget
fronts.
about it.
Yeah.
So true. We've got a clip from Robert Wright, and then we'll be back. King was able to go to the
political party outside the Essex County Detention Center.
Oh, maybe we should talk about that first. What was going on there?
So we had the...
I know. Wait a minute. You're thrown off because we didn't do
Yes. Yeah, I usually have a little time to...
I just can't get sick of that at all. I love it.
Please put your bushels down.
What? Okay.
So the National Day Labor Organizing Network had a political party outside the Essex County Detention Center.
Why
By
so?
Political party, they brought a band in from California who flew all the way here, rented a ton of instruments and sound system, and set up in the parking lot and played towards the detention center, hoping that the music would reach the immigrants who were inside.
Oh.
It was a beautiful event. They had lights, there was dancing, people had signs, there was speeches, but it was really a political party. And I want to give props to, and I want to make sure I say this right, Los Jornaleros del Norte. That's the group that came all the way from California and performed there. So
Beautiful. We're going to have some
we're
music
going to
from
have
them.
some music and sound from it tomorrow.
Excellent.
I got back real late.
Yeah, and you were busy. Where were you, by the way?
When?
Oh, no, didn't you go to the, you went to
Mom,
the,
I swear I was in bed.
where was the, didn't you go to the Harlem Comedy Festival also?
Oh, yeah. That was the day before. So I came out
We're
of
calling this segment Living Vicariously Through King Downing.
I came out of a serious actual meeting about Rikers Island, and came out, and all these people were laughing and joking, and they had this panel, and
You're like, what's wrong with you?
It actually felt good. It was therapeutic because they were also serving drinks.
Oh,
It's really strong drinks.
well, that's comedy, does
And
that.
so it turned out that it was a panel by the Harlem Comedy Festival, and it's been going on for a while, and they were talking about how to get into the world of comedy and what you can do to advance your career. And so they had a lot of key people, but we're going to hear from somebody who helped organize the festival and helped organize the event that I went to.
Here we go.
Okay, so I come out of a meeting and I walk up onto a whole other event that's lively. It's got people not looking grim like in my meetings. So tell me what was going on over here.
You walked into We Work the Crowd, a panel, mixer, and comedy show, part of the Harlem Comedy Festival.
And who are you?
I am Vanetta Schofield. I am the co-producer of the event, and I have another event this week, and I have enjoyed working with the festival so much. It's our 4th year, and it is just to bring culture and comedy into the epicenter of Harlem, where it all started.
And on this panel, you had some pretty prominent people. Tell me who the 4 folks were.
So we had Bob Sumner, who started Def Comedy Jam, Kelly Kells, who was just featured on the reboot, Jason Torres, who is the Associate Director of Development at Complex, and it was moderated by Glory Mora, who is the owner of Pretty Funny Friends.
And so what are people going to see at the Harlem Comedy Festival?
You're going to see a lot because comedy is so vast. So you're going to see improv, you're going to see sketch, you're going to see a lot of stand-up comedy, and you're going to see Funny Honeys, which is my show. I am the associate director of the festival, as well as I produce Harlem Comedy Festival and the Funny Honeys show. Sorry, I fucked it up. But I produce Funny Honeys. That is this Friday at Queens. I'm sorry. You're going to edit this, right?
No.
Nope. You're not going to edit it?
I'm not going to edit it.
Okay, so rewind.
Keep going.
Harlem Comedy Festival is amazing, and I have an event Friday. It is called Queens. Part of my comedy company, Funny Honeys. We're all about empowerment through entertainment. So we're gonna have B Flat headlining, Kelly Kells that you just saw hosting. It's gonna be amazing, and it's all about women being funny and fucking up their words.
I'm gonna be bleeping all over this thing. So now, last thing, tell me the run of the festival and how people can get more information on it.
Well, the festival, we have nightly events, so we have probably about 2 to 4 events each night.
Starting?
It started on September 22nd on Sunday, and it ends on September 29th this Sunday. So it is a week long. We have a big finale party planned at Harlem Nights on 2361 Adam Clayton Powell on Sunday. Starts around 9 p.m. So we're gonna have a finale party. You can check all the details on harlemcomedyfestival.com.
Great.
Love it. HarlemComedyFestival.com. Sounds fun. It's all weekend.
Yeah, it sounds like it's a great one. I'm sorry we didn't know about it ahead of time. I told them let us know next year so that we can get this up and get them on here.
Yeah.
Because she's
We could
just
just
one of
call
them.
them. I'm
Live.
sure they'll come.
Oh, they'll
By
come
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Let's make some phone calls. You're listening to Waking Up. I'm Juliana Forlano. That was so fun. I know her, actually. I don't know if I have her number. We could call her live. I bet she's sleeping. Comedians generally don't enjoy the getting up and doing the morning show. A lot of times when you travel to different cities, they want you to do the morning show to produce or to promote what's going on at the comedy club later. And there's usually some sort of agreement between the club and the radio station. And so you just do a show. You don't go home until 1, 2, depending on how late the show. Sometimes they have a midnight show. And then you got to be at that station by like 6. And funny, you can't just be there all groggied up talking about impeachment.
So there, it's not even a call in. They want you.
Oh,
they
no.
want you
You
there.
gotta be there, and they're up, like all coked up and ready to go. Usually, like with the toilet sound effects and all that. So it's something. It's something. There's a lot of talk about that. But hey, we got to do the promotion to get the word out about the shows. We have caller on the line. We opened up our phone lines, most probably talking about impeachment. 212-209-2877 is our phone line here on WBAI. Caller, you're on the air on Waking Up. Your name and where you're calling from.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Denise. I'm from Brooklyn.
Hi, Denise.
And the two things that I wanted to say to you, or talk to you about a little, so you think about the impeachment situation. If Trump is impeached, it is because it's been manipulated into place. And so we have to think about what will come after him. I understand the vice president is really someone to be concerned about.
Yes.
Okay? In my opinion. And then I wanted to speak to you about the 5G situation. Gary Knowles had an interview, a 10-minute interview, from the former president of Microsoft in Canada. I don't recall his name. I got to listen to his station again, his program, so that I can call him and ask him to make it accessible to the youth who are really concerned about the environment.
Mm-hmm.
We want to understand what their thoughts are about it and how they will address it. It's going to be rolling out next year. I understand, based on what this gentleman was speaking about, it has a great possibility of being very damaging to the human body.
Yes.
And it's kind of logical that it would be.
Yes.
And he had the courage enough to come out and speak on it, and he is someone who has great knowledge.
So you're suggesting we should get him on? Yeah, this is.
You should get him on, and the 10-minute bite or the tape that he did, or the CD, whatever you call it, that he did, needs to be heard by the youth.
Do you know what his name is?
I can get that. I can call back, but I'm not home.
Oh.
I'm a little out of breath with my morning exercise where I'm at
that's
now. But
good. I'm so glad you're taking care of yourself. This
we
is
got to
excellent.
do that. We
You
got to
got
do that.
to.
It's crazy. We got to be ready.
You're
But
right
I
about
would like
Denise.
to
Thank you
see-
so much. I appreciate the call, and I can look into it with Gary Knowles people as well to see if I can get that. That is an issue that we have tried to cover here, and we will continue to keep that on our radar. Interesting. The idea that if there is an impeachment, is an orchestrated by the powers that be kind of deal. Hard to know. Very hard to know. You're listening to Waking Up. 212-209-2877 is our phone lines. They are open if you want to call in. I've got a piece from Robert Reich here that I've been wanting to play for you for a while. Here it comes.
I keep hearing that the Democratic Party has moved left, and that some Democratic candidates may be too far left. But in an era of unprecedented concentration of wealth and power at the top, I can't help wondering what it means to be left. A half-century ago, when America had a large and growing middle class, those on the left sought stronger social safety nets and more public investment in schools, roads, and research. Those on the right sought greater reliance on the free market. Yet as wealth and power have concentrated at the top, everyone else, whether on the old right or the old left, have become disempowered and less secure. Safety nets have unraveled. Public investments have waned, and the free market has been taken over by crony capitalism and corporate welfare cheats. Washington and state capitals are overwhelmed by money coming from the super rich, Wall Street, and big corporations. So why do we continue to hear and use the same old right and left labels? It's because the emerging oligarchy, those at the top who are accumulating ever more wealth and power over our political system, they feel safer if Americans are split along the old political battle lines. That way, Americans won't notice they're being shafted. In reality, the biggest divide in America today is not between right and left or government and the free market. It's oligarchy versus democracy. When oligarchs fill the coffers of political candidates, they neuter democracy. The oligarchs know politicians won't bite the hands that feed them. So long as they control the money, they can be confident there will be no meaningful response to stagnant pay, the climate crisis, military bloat, or the soaring costs of health insurance, pharmaceuticals, college, and housing. There'll be no tax increases on the wealthy. There'll be almost no antitrust enforcement to puncture the power of giant corporations. No meaningful regulation of Wall Street's addiction to gambling with other people's money. No end to corporate subsidies. CEO pay will continue to skyrocket. Wall Street hedge fund and private equity managers will continue to make off like bandits. So long as the oligarchy divides Americans, stokes racial resentments, describes human beings as illegal aliens, launches wars on crime and immigrants, fuels fears of communists and socialists, it doesn't have to worry that a majority will stop them from looting the nation. Divide and conquer. allows the oligarchy free rein. It makes the rest of us puppets, fighting each other on a made-up stage. Trump is the puppet master. He's been at it for years, long before he ran for president. He knows how to pit native-born Americans against immigrants, the working class against the poor, whites against blacks and Latinos. He's well-versed in getting evangelicals and secularists steamed up about abortion, equal marriage rights, out-of-wedlock births, access to contraception, and transgender bathrooms. He knows how to stir up fears of people of color streaming across the border and stokes anger about black athletes who don't stand for the national anthem. He's a master at fueling anxieties about so-called communists and socialists and the left taking over America. He can make the white working class believe they've been losing good jobs and wages because of a cabal of Democrats, deep state bureaucrats, and Hillary Clinton. From the start, Trump's deal with the oligarchy has been simple. He'll stoke tribalism so most Americans won't see CEOs getting exorbitant pay while they're slicing the pay of average workers. Won't pay attention to Wall Street demanding short-term results over long-term jobs, and won't notice a boardroom culture that tolerates financial conflicts of interest, insider trading, and the outright bribery of public officials through unlimited campaign donations. The only way to overcome the oligarchy and Trump's divide and conquer strategy is for the rest of us to join together and win America back. That means creating a multiracial, multi-ethnic coalition of working class, poor, and middle-class Americans who will fight for democracy and oppose oligarchy. White, black, and Latino, union and non-union, evangelical and secular, immigrant and native-born, all focused on ending big money in politics, stopping corporate welfare and crony capitalism, busting up monopolies, and stopping voter suppression. This agenda is neither right nor left. It's the bedrock for everything America must do.
Thank you, Robert Rice, for that dose of beautiful sanity. You're listening to Waking Up on WBAI with Juliana and King and Michael and Alana in the studio all together like one happy family. I'm happy to report that Alana's cold has subsided, and none of us caught it, which is wonderful. But if you're watching on a live stream, that explains why we weren't live streamed yesterday. So it's 65 degrees outside right now. Very clear. Going up to 83 today. It looks like it's going to be a really great day here. By the way, in Montana, if you happen to be listening from there, they're looking at potential blizzard conditions this weekend. So we've got flooding, we've got blizzards. I've been following sort of the reports on both the intersection of climate, chaos, and weather. And the latest report is that there's going, the likelihood of catastrophic, 100-year floods happening every year is almost, there's a new UN report, of course. That's what we're going to be looking at. We're going to be looking at catastrophic floods every year.
Do we have any updates on the hurricanes? I know those were churning around for a while.
That's a great question. I don't see anything specific.
Yeah, I was looking
at this moment, but we will keep you updated on that. Caller, you are on the air. Your name and where you're calling from.
Hi there, Elle from Long Island.
Hello. Long time no hear from you.
Well, hey, I've been trying to get in.
Really?
Question, yes. Question. In regards to your first caller, she prompted this question in my mind, so I thought I'd ask. When Donald Trump is impeached, those who have sided, who were involved in any way or manner with the wrongs that he may be convicted of or charged with, would they also be subject to legal action taken against them? If so, it's like, when you go into a brand new house, you get a new broom. You don't take old brooms with you. So would it be a good thing for the country, because you would have a great opportunity to clean house and remove all that have not done their job properly and honestly.
Elliot, you're making a
integrity.
great point. Great point.
Yeah,
King.
I'll take a shot at that. You'd not only need a broom, you'd probably need a giant vacuum cleaner, the thing that roasts bed bugs, and you'd also need
Ugh.
Michael G. Haskins Lysol spray. So it's going to take more
He's
than
coming
a
out with a
broom.
patent.
But the
I see what you meant.
The
You
other
meant you
people
don't-
are probably subject to criminal charges, not impeachment. So all of them, anybody who was doing any of these sorts of things, Giuliani, and I'm always apologizing to the rest of the country because we kind of turned him loose on everybody else. And so here he is once again. But
And imagine he's an Italian, how I feel about having to be.
the other people would face criminal charges.
Well, the issue is also that an impeachment is an inquiry. So first, before they actually toss you out, and have that vote, they have an inquiry, and I think the mud is going to splatter and it's going to hit everybody who is dirty. So we'll see, and that's a great question. Al, thanks for calling. I appreciate it. Caller, you are on the air. Your name and where you're calling from.
Good morning.
Hi.
It's Thomasina
I
from Bergen
knew
County.
it. Happy. Is it Thursday? Happy Thursday.
No, it's Happy Impeachment Day.
It is Happy Impeachment Day. Go ahead.
I'm so happy. Okay, so here's the thing. I've been teaching Reconstruction for the past few weeks, and if you read the impeachment of Andrew Johnson, it is so close to what Trump can be impeached for, even before the Ukrainian debacle happening.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a really interesting read because it talks about the debasement of the presidency and how Andrew Johnson would go around the country and talk in a way that they didn't like at all, that they didn't think he was presidential. And, of course, he wasn't even supposed to be the president. Lincoln just picked him because he wanted to suffice the Southerners. So it's just an interesting read. The other thing I want to say, I want all parents to start calling the schools because this impeachment needs to be covered in English and social studies classes. And if your kid is sitting in a world history class, they're not going to talk about it at all. Because I went to my back-to-school night, and the world history teacher said she won't be talking about it, which I think is disgraceful. And unless parents call and say, you need to be doing current events in the classroom and covering this impeachment of the president because it's important. I hope that parents do that. And I'm just calling to say, please, please, please call your public school and ask that current events be taught in the English classes because all they want to do is teach Beowulf. And that's another call I'm making today because I do not want my child reading Beowulf.
Enough with the Beowulf. Yeah, well, Thomasina, here's a question. Do you think that our public school teachers would be able to cover it in a way that's nonpartisan? Because I don't necessarily want, maybe around here we're going to get a safe idea of what's going on. But if people are listening in other states, I don't necessarily, other states don't use science textbooks. So how?
We don't use textbooks to cover current events because, so just for example, yesterday I taught the ideology of conservatives and I taught the ideology of progressives. And I'm having them now, they will be looking at this all year long, and their job as citizens is to decide what they think the role of government is. It's not for me to decide for them, but I have to pose the question to them. So I do say every teacher needs to pose the question, what is the purpose of government? And it really spawns a great conversation with your students, and they get to think for themselves.
Why don't we talk about that here on
government should do.
We're going to talk about that here on the air tomorrow. What is the purpose of government? So let me give out the phone number, 212-209-2877, and we'll discuss it a little bit here, what we think the purpose of government is. We have a lot of callers coming in. Yeah, go ahead, Thomas.
One last thing. I don't think your phones are working properly.
We know.
Check your phones.
We know we had a little problem.
Seriously.
No, we know that. We know we had a little problem yesterday. We're working on it, but people are getting through, so we're happy to hear that. And I'm sorry if you are having trouble. You know how it is. We're figuring it out, and I appreciate the heads up. 212-209-2877. We're going to continue to take phone calls after this musical break and after we bring on our guests. So if you're on hold, keep holding. And if you are trying to call in, call in. And if you want to talk to the guest, we'll see if we're able to do that after the break. Josh Holland from The Nation will be joining us. Stay tuned.
Attorney General Barr is all over this transcript. What was his involvement with the president, with Rudy Giuliani, in the whole Ukraine story? At the moment, they're saying the Attorney General had no role. Well, then why was he mentioned so often by the president?
Attorney General Barr, has the president or anyone at the White House ever asked or suggested that you open an investigation of anyone?
I wouldn't.
Yes or no?
Could you repeat that question?
I will repeat it. Yeah. Has the president or anyone at the White House ever asked or suggested that you open an investigation of anyone? Yes or no, please, sir?
The president or anybody else?
Seems you would remember something like that and be able to tell us.
Yeah, but I'm trying to grapple with the word suggest. I mean, there have been discussions of matters out there that they have not asked me to open an investigation, but
perhaps they've suggested.
I don't know. I wouldn't say suggest.
Hinted?
I don't know.
Inferred? You don't know. Okay.
How dare you pretend that this can be solved with just business as usual and some technical solutions? With today's emissions levels, that
yesterday or the day before, but it's such an apt song for what's going on in the world. You're listening to Waking Up on Juliana Forlano. This is WBAI 99.5 FM. I'm in the studio to my right with King Downing. If you want to watch us talk, you can find it on a number of different places, including my personal Facebook page, Juliana Forlano. You can find it on Twitch at act.tv. You can find it on my YouTube page, and pretty soon we'll be having it up on WBAI's newly launched YouTube page. So we got that. I'm very excited.
You can check out our fashion statements, our bold fashion
we
statements.
Call each other, and it's funny. We do have a lot of overlap in our... Hey, thanks a lot for listening today, for joining us today. It's 67 degrees going up to the low 80s today, and it's going to be sunny. So joining us today to help parse out everything that's happening, contributor to The Nation, Joshua Holland is here. Josh, hi.
Good morning, Juliana.
Did you have the coffee?
I had the coffee. I'm ready to go.
Okay, so there's so much to talk
ready
about.
To rock and roll.
We've been discussing...
And there's a lot to parse, huh?
There's so much to parse. Isn't it exciting? I was just talking to King about how exciting it is to be a journalist during the impeachment of a sitting president.
It also makes me a little bit humble, to tell you the truth, because this is completely uncharted territory. And people are always talking about, well, this happened with Clinton's impeachment, this happened with Richard Nixon's impeachment. And there is just very little commonality between these instances in our history. I mean, those two were very popular when they were impeached, and they could speak English. They were not, wildly corrupt in the same way. And we were less polarized back then, and we didn't have the same kind of siloed media. I'm absolutely convinced that Richard Nixon would have served out his term if Fox News had existed back then.
Yes.
So I don't think that there really is a real historical precedent. You can't say, well, history suggests this and that will happen. It's all very, very up in the air. And of course, we don't know how extensive this Ukraine scandal is. It certainly was not one phone call. That has been clear from very early on. It seems like it was a sprawling conspiracy to use the entire U.S. foreign policy apparatus to get a foreign state to investigate a conspiracy theory about CrowdStrike, this cybersecurity firm. Trump seems to think their CEO is Ukrainian. He isn't. They don't have a copy of a server. It's really bizarre. We shouldn't overlook how bizarre it is that Trump on that call was demanding that another head of state. He was basically babbling about a right-wing conspiracy theory from the fever swamps, and expecting that this other head of state would know what he was talking about.
Can you talk about whether we are going to see a wide-ranging impeachment inquiry, or is it just going to be on this topic around the Ukraine? I mean, there's so many other reasons that you could impeach him.
No, I can't say, because it's very early in the process. The reports are that leadership is leaning towards a narrow inquiry looking into Ukraine and wrapping it up relatively quickly. I think that there is division within the caucus over that, and certainly division within the larger Democratic progressive community over the costs and benefits of doing it that way. A lot of people would like to stretch this out a little bit so that it gets a little closer to the election.
What do you make of the fact that some people on the left are seeing, the smearing of Joe Biden and Joe Biden's son as a positive if they are, hoping for a Sanders and or Warren presidency?
I have a few thoughts about that. First of all, I think that Biden is a very weak frontrunner. The polls at this early, we're still 4.5 months away from people voting. They're not predictive, and you see that the trend line shows that Biden is hemorrhaging support. So I don't think he's the great threat that a lot of people on the left perceive him to be, even though he has clearly led in the early national polls for pretty much the entire time. It is a bit demoralizing to me in that there is no serious allegation against Joe Biden, right? So Trump's claim is that Joe Biden's son Hunter had this gig with a Ukrainian gas company, and he intervened. It's a classic deflection. He accused Biden of doing basically what he did. He said that Biden...
The audacity of this just... just keeps on rolling. I'm just, my jaw couldn't be any lower.
Yeah, so, there was a former prosecutor named Victor Shokin was, so Biden, when as vice president, he pressured the Ukrainian government to dismiss a former prosecutor named Victor Shokin. Now, Victor Shokin, unlike Trump, who has done all of this clearly in his own personal interest, Biden was reflecting the consensus of not only the United States government and the State Department, but also the European Union, the IMF. It was widely perceived that this guy, who Trump praised on that phone call, by the way, repeatedly, had routinely turned a blind eye toward corruption within Ukraine's elites. So when Biden said, listen, this guy has to go, he was simply expressing the view of the entire United States government. There was nothing personal in that. There's no allegation that there was something personal. Now, in retrospect, the smear is that because Hunter Biden had this cushy sinecure with a Ukrainian gas company that may or may not have been target of investigation, Biden's goal was to take heat off of this company by getting this guy discharged.
That's the accusation.
That is I don't even want to say that it rises to the level of an accusation because of the reasons that I just mentioned. Biden, again, was representing a widespread view that this prosecutor was ineffective and ignored corruption within his own country. So it's a conspiracy theory, and it is
really Trump is trafficking in conspiracy theory. I am
shocking.
I am shocked,
but true. And it's a little demoralizing to me that people are eager to help him out because the strategy seems rather transparent. You create a lot of smoke, and then you say, well, look, there must be fire. Look at all this smoke. And we've seen it before. This is how the Uranium One controversy was kind of mainstreamed, right? They got that story into the New York Times, and the CNN picked it up, the Washington Post picked it up, and they said, look, all of these mainstream media firms publications are putting out this story. There must be something there.
I haven't seen very much response from Joe Biden on this.
Well, Joe Biden, he tried to make like a viral "I'm so offended" moment the other day. Didn't work out that well, I don't think. He stressed that every media outlet that had looked into this had found that there was nothing there. He stressed, I think, that the new Ukrainian prosecutor and new Ukrainian government had concluded that this was a non-issue. And I think that he was criticized because this was an opportunity to go on offense against Trump, and instead of doing that, he played defense. He was angry about it, but he defended himself and his family rather than saying, look, Trump is, manipulating U.S. foreign policy, withholding, defense aid that was allocated by Congress to try to coerce this government into fabricating a controversy.
Oh, gosh. Okay, so we had a telephone call the other day. Just wanted to get your take on this, and because I didn't have I didn't have the deets, but now I do. And the deets. Yeah. By the way, I'm going to open up the phone lines in case someone wants to call and ask you a question. Is that okay?
Yeah. I've only had one cup of coffee. Be careful.
Okay. Well, we'll try to screen them, but I can't make that promise. 212-209-2877, 212-209-2877. But we have wonderful callers, actually, and very intelligent people who make...
The BAI audience is a great audience.
Right? That's what I was saying. Josh, we had a caller the other day who, as we were reporting on Elizabeth Warren having overtaken Biden in certain polls, the call-in said something about how Warren had said she wasn't going to be taking corporate money, but if she wins the primary, she did not make a promise to not take corporate money. Can you talk a little bit about this controversy and what's the reality of any candidate being able to beat Trump without taking some money from corporations?
Well, I mean, so I think that this is a classic kind of bit of gotcha. There's been a number of pieces written with the same theme, that somehow she had betrayed the spirit, the quote-unquote spirit of her promise not to take. I don't think it was even corporate. She promised that she would not do chase big donors, basically, have high-dollar fundraisers. They're all not taking PAC money. They're all not taking, corporate PAC money. This is exactly what she said. It was a narrow promise. She wrote a Medium post. She said, people can actually look up what she said. She said that she would forego high-dollar fundraisers for the duration of her primary campaign. And in that Medium post, I don't have it in front of me, but she said something to the effect of, when the general election comes, we will be faced with Donald Trump, and he will raise billions of dollars, maybe $2 billion for the first time. It's possible. And we will do what it takes to compete, which is a fairly straightforward promise. And she has said elsewhere, and this echoes, I think, a lot of people, that you can't unilaterally disarm. Campaign finance is a structural issue. And if you say, I'll tie my hands behind my back and won't have enough money to compete,
well, that's problematic.
Doesn't help anyone. So since she said this, there has been an enormous like cottage industry of pieces arguing that somehow she has, again, betrayed the spirit of it. But I don't know. There wasn't a spirit of it. It was a narrow promise. She said that she wasn't going to do big dollar fundraisers during the primary campaign. She'll do what she needs to do to compete in the general election. And frankly, I think that, it would be the same regardless of the candidate. So let's say Sanders were the nominee, for example. Well, maybe he would not put his fingers into it, and maybe the DNC would do those high-dollar fundraisers. But the Democratic nominee next year
So it is more honest of her, not comparing her to anyone else, but it's more honest of her to say, hey, listen, this is the reality of the situation. I could pretend I'm not doing this, and then maybe the DNC would do it or whatever. It is kind of an honest position for her to say. what she's
I'm not saying that Sanders is dishonest.
No,
in promising not to do that.
Someone has to do it.
I mean, I think that there is an untested assumption that you can compete in a nationwide general election in 50 states and 7 U.S. territories on small dollar donations alone. I don't believe that's true, just given the sums that are required to compete on that level. Again, I don't have the numbers in front of me. I think it was about $3 billion to...
It's a lot of $27 donations, $3 billion.
Yeah.
Let's do our math.
That was in 2016. And if you look at the 2018 midterms, for example, ACT Blue, the small dollar behemoth on the left, they raised $1.6 billion for, 460 some odd races.
Josh.
That's not including state races, so even more than that. And, I think you need some big checks if you're going to
beat Trump.
President.
Yeah, especially he has a huge, donation machine already pledging behind him. We're speaking with Josh Holland of The Nation and Alternet and 1,000 other places. Josh, your podcast comes out every week. Where can people find it?
It's called We've Got Issues. It's on iTunes and Podbean and
everywhere podcasts can be found.
And wherever you get your podcast.
We've got
issues.
Issues.
It's not there now. It's going to be there soon.
With Josh Holland. Josh, there's the whole entire phone line is all of our phone lines are lit up. I believe people want to talk to you. So let's see if we can get some callers on the line in the next few minutes. Caller, you are on the air. Your name and where you're calling from.
Good morning. Yes, Jim from Brooklyn.
Hi, Jim. Your thought for Josh?
Yeah, I keep hearing on the other radio shows a tape of Biden bragging about how he threatened to withhold, as vice president, he threatened to withhold American funding from Ukraine if the prosecutor or the investigator against his son Hunter was not fired, and he was summarily fired. Now, before we go into that, I also want to notice that Trump's ratings keep going up as this progresses, and I also want to note one more thing, that this thing has skipped, from Russia to racist to Nazi to Kavanaugh to this, and
there's a lot of reasons to get rid of the guy.
What?
There's a lot of reasons to get rid of him.
Well, I noticed that the people who bring these accusations on radio shows, when they talk among themselves, including on your show, they will quite frequently giggle among themselves as if they're like embarrassed that they know they're really not quite on target.
Listen,
and also,
let's Jim. Thanks for the call. Let's let Josh respond. Josh, your thoughts about that? The Biden tape. I don't know about that.
I mean, the Biden tape is what I was talking about. Biden did again. He did call for the dismissal of the former prosecutor, Victor Shokin, and he did that in his capacity as vice president, reflecting the view of the United States government, the European Union, the IMF, and others that Shokin was an ineffective prosecutor who turned a blind eye to corruption in his own country.
So basically, he was doing his job as the vice president.
He was representing the interests of the United States as the United States government saw it. It is not clear that, there is no serious allegation that this was about his son Hunter's involvement in.
How are we even talking about this? I mean, Trump's sons are so dirty that I can't even believe we're having this conversation, King.
But this is the playbook. Look,
Yeah, I wanted
this is the playbook. You go after. I mean, he
did the same thing.
Projection-based attacks are so consistent.
Yes.
What
Josh,
he is guilty of, he always accuses the opposite of doing.
Josh, I'm with you 100%, and I know that he's taken this over the top. The one thing that I would like to hear you comment on this is that even if the European Union and the rest of the government was all calling for this prosecutor to investigate corruption and he wasn't doing it, wouldn't the fact that some of the corruption involved the CEO of the oil company that Hunter was on the board of, wouldn't that at least require that Biden recuse himself from joining into the demands? Because now he's given the appearance that even if all of these governments are with it, he's also calling for something that benefits his son.
Well, I would turn that around. I would say that Hunter Biden made a error in terms of an appearance of impropriety by taking that position with that company, because it was embroiled in controversy at the time, and the U.S. was trying to get Ukraine into NATO, and there was this whole effort underway. Again, the authorities have looked into this and not found any connection between these things. Appearances are, subjective. I think a lot of people, they are. I am certainly no fan of Joe Biden. I don't want him to be the nominee, but I think that we have to let the facts guide what we're saying here. So, according to everything we know, Hunter Biden did not get that job through his father. His father did not assist in any way. Joe Biden says he didn't even really know that his son was involved at the time. He found that out through media reports later on. I can't disprove that. They say there was a deep dive done by the New Yorker the other day. They said that Hunter and Joe had decided years before any of this happened that they were not going to discuss Hunter's business deals. Is that plausible? I mean, I'll leave that up to the audience. The thing that I think is really important is that there is no reason to believe that Biden moved to do this because of his son's involvement in that company. So, appearance, maybe.
We're speaking with Josh Holland of The Nation, Alternate, every great place you can find progressive thought, and he has a podcast called We've Got Issues. We have maybe enough time to take one more caller before we have to unfortunately let you go, and I thank you very much for being on for this extended period and answering
my pleasure.
Listener phone calls. Caller, you are on the air on Waking Up on WBAI. Your name and where you're calling from.
Hi, this is Mike from New Jersey.
Hi, Mike. What would you like to say?
I look around and I see all of these commentators, all of these people celebrating and practically salivating at the idea that finally, 2.5 years late, they have finally started looking into an impeachment inquiry. And I'm thinking that's the baby step when we ought to be taking huge leaping strides. Impeachment at this point does not address the fact that since this person wormed his way into the Oval Office, the bedrock and the foundations of normality and the integrity of the United States government have just taken bullet after bullet after bullet and may never recover from the damage that he has done. He was not just a horrible president, he sets a horrible precedent.
Well said, Mike. But what would be, we have to go within the boundaries of the law. What would be the nuclear option that you're suggesting? This isn't impeachment, the nuclear option that's at our disposal, Josh?
I agree with the caller's sentiment 100%. But your question is salient also. I mean, we have a very polarized society. There is 40% of the country that supports Trump for reasons that are often elusive. My mother cannot understand that anybody supports Trump. She literally just cannot wrap her head around it. And the remedies available to the minority party, the out party, are limited. So it hasn't been 2.5 years. It has been 9 months since they controlled a chamber of Congress. And for me,
Trump is the pinnacle of 40 years of
yes, Trump is an extreme reflection or an extreme expression of 30 thoroughly corrupt conservative movement at this point.
Josh, you're going to have to come back. I'm going to give you a minute for final thought here, but we're kind of out of time.
Oh, darn. Okay, well, let me just respond to that last caller and say that Trump's ratings have not improved in the polling averages, and I hope everybody will pay attention to the averages and not focus on individual polls.
Thank you so much, Josh. We're speaking with Josh Holland. You can find him on Twitter at Joshua Howell, JOSHUAHOL. His podcast is We've Got Issues. He writes for the Contributor to the Nation. He is also doing the 2020 coverage, is my understanding. Election coverage. He's the editor for Alternet's Election 2020 coverage. So we look forward to having you back on, Josh. Thank you so much. And thanks for the callers who called in to our program, Waking Up with Juliana and King. Hey, Jeff Simmons is going to be calling back in a quick minute to tell us what is going to be on Driving Forces. Gosh, we got so many callers today. It's just fabulous, absolutely fabulous. And I really thank everyone for calling in. I hope that was really clear. What a great guest.
Yeah, and I want folks to keep calling in and keep trying. It was great to see the board light up like that.
Yeah, we love it. Okay, Jeff, how you doing?
Hi, how are you today?
Hi, good. What's going on Driving Forces tonight at 5 p.m.?
Well, as you can expect, we're going to be talking about what is going on in Washington, D.C. today. I'm sure between your conversation this morning with Josh and my conversations this afternoon with our guests, there's going to be a lot of developments between now and then.
Absolutely. What are we looking at today? I think they are going to read somehow the secret documents to the whole chamber. Am I wrong? I might be.
We're expecting there'll be more details about the whistleblower complaint. And one person who I'm really happy to have on the show is former New York City Council Speaker Christine Quinn, who's going to weigh in on the latest developments. She's been very strong on this.
Oh, that'll be really interesting. Okay, well, thank you so much, Jeff. I appreciate it. 5 p.m. The show is Driving Forces on WBAI, WBAI.org. You can listen online. If you have Alexa, you can say, Alexa, play WBAI, and she will do it. And then she will mark you down, like with the NSA, that you are listening to WBAI. Hey, thanks, Jeff. I appreciate it.
Have a great day, Juliana.
Have a great day, too. I look forward to hearing your show. That'll be a great discussion. I mean, really, by the time today ends, the news that I just presented, it's going to be totally evolved and new. Yeah, I don't, sometimes it's hard to know whether folks are just trying to use the phone lines here to get out a dampening message. But yeah, I have been dancing around about this because he there's so many reasons that he's unfit for the presidency, starting with the fact that he bragged about grabbing women by their genitals with impunity. That's it. That's unfitness right there. The emoluments clause, everything he's done, that's it. I don't have to say it to New York. New York knows. And New Jersey knows too. Connecticut. Hey, tomorrow we'll have Dean Baker on, but I have a feeling there's going to be so much more to discuss. Thanks for listening. Have a great day. You're listening to Waking Up with Juliana and King on WBAI.